We have a speaker that would like to talk to you just for a few minutes before we begin. So if I could ask Mr. Wagner, John Wagner, to please come up here from the United Methodist in Ohio, right? And he would like to talk to you about a very important and somewhat related project, the Kairos response.
I'm going to ask my friend Suzanne to come here and be with me. Friends, we are, I'm a United Methodist pastor. I'm a son and grandson of United Methodist ministers. We are here in Tampa because the General Conference of our denomination will be meeting here this next 2 weeks. Thousands and thousands of United Methodists will be here. We are going to consider a proposal to divest from some companies that our denomination holds stock in that contribute or help to sustain the occupation. This is something that I've dedicated myself to for several years now, and Suzanne as well. We're bringing in people from around the world for this. We're basically responding to the call from Palestinian Christians who have asked us to take them seriously, take this call seriously. And of course, they're speaking on behalf of all Palestinians. Some of our missionaries will be there, a Palestinian man especially, who will testify strongly to his relationship with the Muslim community as well.
If it does pass, it's going to really make a difference because it already is waking up sort of mainstream Americans who've been very complacent and thought of this as something happening over there. It's awakening them to the reality that people of every faith in the Holy Land are dealing with. I went to the region for the first time in 2004 independently and had a chance to stay in the homes of Christians, Jews, and Muslims. I spent quite a bit of time in the northern West Bank farming communities of Jayus and Calkilia. And I came face to face with an injustice that I never dreamed could exist in this day and age. And it was exactly the kind of injustice that I think all of our faiths call us to stand against. I think this, like all civil rights movements before it and to come, is an interfaith movement for justice.
And to put in perspective for you how important and historic this is, the Methodist Church, which is one of the oldest, what they call mainline churches, and every 4 years they have something called the General Conference, and that General Conference means it has like almost 1,000 people in it, delegates from around the world. They come together and they vote on policies. They're pretty, they're organized. They're not like the Muslim faith where they can't agree on stuff. Because we don't have an actual body like that. But it's like their legislative body. They come together, and they pass laws, they pass resolutions, they pass policies, and those policies dictate to everybody what the church policy is. The last time they met was 2008. Now it's 2012. It's like the World Cup. Only happens every 4 years. Or the Olympics every 4 years. This is just as big of a deal for them. Now there is a movement within the United Methodist Church that thinks that what's happening in Palestine, the occupation of Palestine by the Israelis, is completely unjust and contradicts their Christian and Methodist beliefs. In that church, they have a movement called the United Methodist Kairos Response. And that group, knowing that the conference is here, also flew here to Tampa to lobby the 1,000 people to make sure that they vote for this policy to divest. Divest meaning that they will take the church money out of 3 companies that are benefiting and empowering the occupation. And those 3 companies, of course, if you guessed Caterpillar, yes. Because Caterpillar uses those bulldozers to, bulldoze those homes illegally, and they just take away Palestinian homes overnight. And then the other company is Motorola. They use the communication devices between the checkpoints to make sure that Palestinians continue to be in those concentration camps or in ghettos and they can't move. And then also Hewlett-Packard. This is their way of resisting the occupation. There's a movement out there in the world that's called BDS, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions. They basically want to strangle the Israeli economy to make sure to force it to do the right thing, very much how the world came together to strangle the apartheid regime in South Africa through economies. And just like Jimmy Carter said that Israel is now apartheid states, that the Palestinians are very much living in an apartheid state. These courageous individuals, they're not Palestinian, they're not Muslim, they're Christian. And they're doing that because they're good Christian. And they believe in the message of Jesus. And they know what's happening there is unjust. And because some of the best people in this country that are doing so much for Palestinians and to resist occupation are not Palestinian. They're not Muslim. They're not even Arab. They are these Christians and others, Jewish Voices for Peace, and others are supporting this movement. I believe that that resolution will pass, and then it's just game over. It's just a matter of time before the occupation is done. Because once the Methodists wake up, things are going to start happening. That's just like the heart of America. When the heart of America wakes up to what's happening in Palestine, the rest of the country is going to have the courage to stand up and continue that path.
My name is Abdelfattah Hassan Ibrahim Muhammad Ahmad Mustafa Ibrahim Abusrour. These are 10 generations. So you can call me Abdelfattah or Adel, for example. And the reason I usually say the 10 names or 10 generations is because I am the only one who was born in a refugee camp. Aida, like the opera of Verdi, but with another tragedy, that is of Palestinian refugees. And born in my own country as a refugee is a little bit paradoxal, because we are put in these refugee camps on this rented land for 99 years. We are not part of the city, but we are part of the country somehow. We do not vote for municipal elections, we do not receive municipality services, but yet we vote in Palestine, at least, for parliament elections and presidential elections. So we are citizens without citizenship somehow. And I guess I have seen the refugee camp evolving little by little, and sometimes shrinking little by little, until finally surrounded by this illegal wall of separation in 2002 as barbed wires, and in 2005 as blocks of cement that rose from 8 to 12 meters high. I was among the lucky people to get a scholarship to continue my studies in France, where I got my PhD in biological and medical engineering. But my heart was also with theater, with painting, with photography, which of course in France I had a big chance to deepen my work in that. But also I realized my Palestinianity, if I can say that. The first time I arrived in France in 1985, we used to travel with an Israeli travel document called Laissez-Passer. And they usually don't recognize us as Palestinians, they put Jordanian as nationality. And until today, this document exists for Palestinians in East Jerusalem, for example. They are considered as temporary residents. So if they dare to challenge the system and get married, like my case with someone like me in the West Bank, or in the United States or wherever, and leave Jerusalem, this Jerusalemite will lose his or her status as Jerusalemites, and their ID card will be confiscated, and they will be not allowed to live in Jerusalem. So I went to do my residency card in Paris, and at the police they gave me this residency card with nationality, Jordanian refugee under Israeli mandate. So I wasn't very happy with that. And I said, listen, I'm not a Jordanian who fled the dictatorship of Jordan to be in the beautiful democracy of Israel. I am a Palestinian refugee under Israeli occupation, if you want to put it in such terminology. So after a big debate, the director of the police came and said to me, okay, monsieur, come back tomorrow. I came the next day, and he delivers me a residency card with nationality to be determined. And that's the irony of it, I guess, for me. Being denied your identity. But we are all the time under this harassment on TV screens and radios and newspapers, Palestinian terrorists, Palestinian terrorists, Palestinian terrorists. So we become flesh and blood as terrorists, but as human beings we do not exist. And that's why my posts were how to show this other image of Palestine. How to say that we are human beings. We reclaim this humanity, we defend it. And we have a long heritage and history of also non-violence. 95% of Palestinian people never held a gun in their life. But they resisted with this beauty, this humanity, this culture, this defense of the values that we share as human beings. I was in France, a country where human rights were born, supposedly in 1948. And the time of our Nakba, in fact. And we talk about these values that we share as human beings. We talk about the human rights, we talk about justice, freedom, peace, equality, love. And these are values that we share as human beings, whether we are Muslim or Christian or Jewish or Buddhist or Hindu or atheist or whatever we are. So in this sense, these values are not elastic. They do not change based on new realities on the ground or the dictation of this leader or that leader. For me, this is the essence of our humanity. And the heritage, hopefully, we want to leave behind us to our children and the generations to come. So we are equal partners in building this. When I hear people say, we can't do anything, it's too complicated, it's hopeless, I say we don't have the luxury of despair. This is not a heritage that anyone can be proud to leave to his children and the generations to come. We cannot sit down and complain that every day that comes is worse than the day that goes, and it's always the fault of the others. We are equal partners in building this world where every day that comes is more important and more beautiful than the day that goes, for the sake of our children and the generations to come. And again, we are equal partners in building this world. And that's why I guess after I finished 9 years in France, I came back to Palestine thinking that Palestine was only waiting for me to save it. How modest I am. And I guess I didn't ask for nationality. I didn't get married with a beautiful French girl to have a nationality and stay and so on. A lot of my family even said, you are crazy, you are stupid. You should at least get the nationality. For me, staying outside was the way that the occupation wants us to do. Staying outside, leaving country on your own, because that will facilitate the ethnic cleansing of Palestine somehow. And if every intelligent, if I can consider myself a little bit intelligent, or people who have a degree leave and stay outside, who will build Palestine of tomorrow? So that's why it was an act of resistance, again, for me to come back. And an act of resistance to stay and to start working in the refugee camp where I started, where I was born. To give an opportunity to our children to work, to create, to tell their story, their version of this, their history, without compromises, without trying to please anybody and say what the international community wants us to say, but really what we want to say. Theater is one of the most amazing, powerful, civilized, and non-violent means of self-expression. A way to tell your story, a way to be truthful, a way to narrate your version of things without compromises, a way to build the peace within before talking about the peace with the others. So my focus is working on our community, not to work with Israelis. I do not care on this level with relations with Israelis. My work is that our young people and children can grow up, can have an education, can fall in love and have children and create miracles in this world. And when the time comes, they should be the ones walking in our funerals, and not the other way around. Because no parents in the world want to walk in the funerals of their children. No parents in the world want to bury their children. We all want to be proud of what our children become. And we want these children to grow up and think that they can change the world and create miracles without need to carry a gun and shoot everybody else. The role model of the hero is not Arnold Schwarzenegger. The role model of the hero is every single one of us who think that they are important, because every single one of us is important. As you said, every single one of us is a change maker, and none of us has the right to say, I can't do anything. We can't do it alone. Of course we can't do it alone. We can do it together. But we cannot wait for others to do the work that we need to do. And that's why I started working with my biology degree to earn my living, but at the same time volunteering with theater. And in 1998, with a group of friends, I founded ALROWWAD Cultural and Theater Training Center. ALROWWAD means in Arabic, the pioneers. And I started, in fact, in my parents' house. We have 2 rooms, 16 square meters each, where everything started. And when there was curfews, and they were very frequent, there was incursions by the Israeli occupation army, the center shifted into an emergency medical clinic, because until today there is no clinic in Aida Camp. Until today there is no medical service in Aida Refugee Camp. And the media center and the school for supported education program for children who have difficulties in learning. And I said, with or without money we do it. With or without money we do it was a way to tell ourselves, and those who want to support eventually, that we are not a humanitarian case, that we do not need charity or pity, that if you want to support us financially or otherwise, it should be an act of partnership, but not an act of charity. I don't want people to say that, oh, we have helped these poor miserable Palestinians so we can sleep calmly in the night. I am bad. I don't want anybody to sleep calmly in the night. I want you to be our partners in creating this change that we can be proud of, in creating this somehow, excuse me for the expression, negative act of charity into a positive and constructive way to build dignity and create jobs and build infrastructures and promote programs and activities that help people keep their dignity and defend it, and not to transform them into beggars and charity actions to be continuously waiting for another handouts from anybody. And that's why, with or without money we do it, was our cry to say that we are doing what we have to do. Everybody who wants to support is welcome, according to our priorities, according to our agenda, but not according to an agenda that is foreign from us, according to a dictation that comes from outside and imposed on us to do normalization or to do work according to these programs, peace building and democracy and so on, while we are still under occupation. And our priority is ending the occupation, that this occupation stops. How can anybody ask a victim of rape during the act of rape to make peace with her or his rapist? We are still under this act of rape for 64 years now. We are living in refugee camps. Aida is one of 59 refugee camps. 19 in the West Bank, 8 in Gaza, 10 in Jordan, 10 in Syria, 12 in Lebanon. And these people who live in refugee camps or even outside the refugee camps, these refugees who were about 2/3 of the Palestinian population in 1948, are still about 2/3 of this Palestinian population with their descendants after 64 years of occupation. And we still hand attached to these old rusty keys for the doors that do or do not exist anymore, reclaiming our right to return. And we still attach to the values that we share as human beings. And we are still attached to this beautiful resistance against the ugliness of occupation and its violence. And we still spend about 70% of our money for the education of our children, to be proud of what they become. And we are still attached to build beautiful houses, even if we know that the Israelis might come and destroy them at any moment. And we built a new, again, more beautiful, to say that we are here and we are staying. we are not ready to live another time and live a continuous Nakba, which we do live despite everything. But at least we do this act of resistance. So I started what I call beautiful resistance against the ugliness of occupation and its violence, a way to show this other image of Palestine, a way to defend our humanity and give an opportunity for our children to resist beautifully, to show that they can keep hope and build for the future. And the hope is that when our children and your children and whoever children go and demonstrate against the ugliness of injustice, whether in our own countries, and we have seen excellent examples of nonviolent resistance and protestation in Tunisia, Egypt, Yemen, and so on. And these people who have defied the system with this beauty and the humanity, despite the ugliness of violence of their own dictators and so on. We have this power to create this act of continuous nonviolent resistance. And this does not mean denying us the right also of armed struggle, because as people who are under occupation, people have the right to defend themselves. Some people chose armed struggle. But as I said, 95% of Palestinian people never carried a gun in their life. My parents were not, if I can say, in Harvard or in Oxford or even went to school. But they taught me something. They taught me that even with a just cause, if you practice violence, you lose part of your humanity. And that's the way it is for me. My father, if anybody dared to speak badly about anyone, he would say, shut up, or turn the page, or if you can't, leave. He never tolerated anybody to speak badly about anybody, even if this person was the worst in the world, in our opinion. So that's why we grow up without hatred. I never had hatred against anybody. And I am full of anger a lot of times. When I cross a checkpoint, my wife is from East Jerusalem. It took me 6 years to get a permit to be able to go to Jerusalem. And we remained, of course, rented an apartment in Jerusalem because, again, an act of resistance to stay in Jerusalem, this city that is under continuous attack with colonies and so on. And it was important to say that this is Palestinian. And we are here in our country. We are not immigrants who came from Russia or from the United States or from Europe. We are here in our home, and we are staying despite everything they are doing to ethnically cleanse us. Beautiful resistance is a way to give importance to every single individual, that everybody is a change maker, everybody is responsible. And it does not concern only Palestinians. It concerns everybody, because it is the heritage we want to leave behind us to our children. We started with theater, we added dance, we added photography and video to be behind the camera, because we have been always in front of the camera. It was always others narrating our stories and telling our history. So it was important to be behind the camera, to narrate again our virgin story, to show Palestine with our eyes, to defend this beauty and the humanity, and to give examples. When I see this group of women of faith, I see these Palestinian women in 1921, the Union of Palestinian Women, who in 1929 created one of the biggest demonstrations at that time, uniting 120 cars, demonstrating in the streets of Jerusalem against the British mandate and against Jewish immigration at that time. 120 cars in the streets of Jerusalem, united by women, demonstrating in 1929. You can see how easy it is to have 120 cars at that time. And this was done not in Washington, D.C. or in Europe or wherever. It was done by Palestinian women, Muslim and Christian women at that time. The same spirit you have now. Women who create a change, and who are, despite what we think men, they are the ones who control. And this is the way we started, 2 rooms, 16 square meters each, and then we had a chance to get some funding in 2005, where I quit my paying jobs to dedicate myself for fundraising and so on. In 2006, we have this 2-floor buildings through funding by the UNDP, through the Germans, 20,000 through Expand Belgium, and friends of ALROWWAD from different countries. And the last example of partnerships that we have through 4 Norwegian schools. In 2008, we had a visit of 4 Norwegian schools, which is an example extraordinary that we hope to duplicate elsewhere. These students, 16 to 18 years old, started a partnership with Aida Refugee Camp in Lebanon. And what they do, on the International Day of Solidarity with Palestine, these children work for money. And the money they earn, whether it's 50 euros, 20 euros, 10 euros, give to the school. The schools collect all this money to support the project. And every year they go and visit Aida Refugee Camp. So in 2008, they came looking for a partner in Palestine, and after they told, they contacted me and said, we want to work with you as well. And so in 2009, they supported us with $20,000. In 2010, $50,000. In 2011, they became 6 schools, and they supported $70,000, which permitted us to build the 3rd floor for the Women Unit and Images for Life Unit, which is a photo and photography program. And this is the essence of what we do. Every year they come. Some of them come as volunteers in the summer. We have volunteers from different countries who come on our programs. We have mobile programs and we have local programs. The mobile programs to reach areas, cities, villages, refugee camps, despite the checkpoints, despite sometimes this illegal wall of separation. And we try to create programs where we connect with each other. We go on theater tours in different countries. We have been in the United States 2 times, in 2005 and 2009. And the idea is to go outside and to see what is we practice a normal life in free countries, without checkpoints, without tear gas. So that when people ask how do we actually rate what's going on, we cannot say we can get used to it, because it's abnormal to get used to occupation, to oppression, to humiliation. But at the same time, we create this opportunity where our children and young people meet and interact with you children and young people. Look at each other as potential partners and not potential enemies. Break these media stereotypes and look at each other as equally human beings. And hopefully, when they become parliament members or congressmen or presidents or responsible people, they will grow up and remain truthful to the values that we share as human beings, and not deform these values and make compromises to win an election or please a donor or APAC or whoever. And that's the essence of what we do, and that's the essence of what you are doing also. Being a human, defend what is a human, what we share as a human being, these values and principles that unite us as a human beings. You cannot see injustice and say, well, it doesn't concern me. If it happens in Latin America, we say it's far away. If it happens in Canada, well, it's closer, but it's still far away. If it happens in New York, well, it's not in Florida. If it happens in Florida, well, it's not in my house. And when it happens in your house, well, I am safe still. But when it happens to you, it becomes too late. So that's why we are all concerned in this freedom, justice, peace, love, values that we share as human beings. And that's why we should remain partners in creating a change that we can be proud of. I have a 10 minutes movie that represents a little bit what we are doing and some of the different programs that we have.
The years after Oslo have witnessed painful degradation in the political and economical situation in occupied Palestine. Aida Camp, which is located at the north of Bethlehem, south of Al-Quds, Jerusalem, has suffered deeply, like other Palestinian communities, from such degradation. Since 2005, Aida Camp has been surrounded by a 30-foot-high, solid concrete separation wall which started in 2002 as barbed wire and was completed in 2006 at the eastern, northern and part of the western side of the camp. Aida Camp is one of 3 refugee camps in the Bethlehem government, hosting about 5,000 inhabitants who originated from 40 different villages, among the 534 villages destroyed by the Zionist groups in 1948. Of this population is under 18 years old. The camp is devoid of green spaces and playgrounds. We do not want our children to be just numbers on lists, or martyrs, or handicapped for the rest of their lives, or perish in Israeli prisons, or continue to reproduce the same stereotype images that we see in the media. ALROWWAD Center, founded by Palestinian volunteers from the camp in 1998, initiated the beautiful nonviolent resistance against the ugliness of Israeli occupation and its continuous violence against the camp, a way to defend our humanity and show our beauty, a way to break the stereotypes and to show another image of ourselves, that nobody is born with genes of hatred or genes of violence. ALROWWAD proposes creative activities to promote positive and constructive ways of self-expression through beautiful means like performing arts, visual arts and education, in a spirit of social entrepreneurship to create a positive, gradual and long-lasting change within the community. On children, empowering parents, especially mothers, working with schools to complete the cycle for a long-lasting change within the community.
انتوا احسن سفراء للثقافه الفلسطينيه للفن الفلسطيني، شو بتكون الدنيا بلا فن لو ما فيش عندنا فن مش هيك؟
Palestine to promote beautiful nonviolent resistance and to create bridges of exchange on a human level as equal partners for change making and transforming ugly present into a beautiful future.
When people come in a refugee camp and say, why do you live in a refugee camp? Why don't you build and forget about it, these old rusty keys. Realities on the ground do not permit that. And I say I don't care about realities in the ground, because the realities in the ground do not erase the rights of people, to simply. We have the right to be given the choice and to have the choice if it's up to us if we want to return or not to return. It's our choice, not a dictation from whoever to say you cannot go back to your own village or your own land. And the fact that after 60 years you should forget, we cannot forget. It's inhuman to forget. So the families are usually very beautifully responding to this. and come. And I remember when we started the fitness program for women, later on it was husbands who come to register their wives because they saw them coming with a smile after they liberated all this frustration. And we are independent, so we are not affiliated to any political party, so this will mean we will have no money or support from a lot of people. But I want to keep it that way also to work on our priorities, not the priorities of political parties or others' agendas. And a lot of people actually, within also the Palestinian Authority, going even, when I was in the United States in 2009 touring with our theater play, a friend showed me an article in the New York Times with a heading, Hamas moves to cultural resistance. We believe that we can create a change. We don't need to carry a dimension to the house. And this is the most beautiful thing, I guess, that we can afford to ourselves as human beings. Yeah, in fact, after the building of this illegal wall of separation and the intensity of building colonies, there was a lot of return to the popular resistance. After the bloody, we can say it, Second Intifada, Palestinians have returned, and a lot of intellectuals, political parties have called to go back to popular resistance, non-violent resistance. And we have seen tons of committees of struggle stop the wall, anarchists against the wall, even Israelis joined in, the popular committees in different areas doing these weekly demonstrations in Bil'in, Na'lin, Beit Umar, Al-Ma'sara, Al-Walaja, etc., confronting this occupation, trying to go beyond the wall, cultivate the lands. Despite these interdictions by the Israeli army, they try to prevent people from reaching their lands. Yes, there has been a lot of movements. Palestinian authorities start encouraging them as well. And because it brings attention. And I guess, despite all the odds, the Palestinians have gained international recognition from people. For the first time of history of resistances in the world, I guess, internationals come and join within the struggle with Palestinians. They come to Palestine, ISM movements, Doris, and people like her, come and join Palestinians to go and cultivate olives in the season, or go and plant our or go and protest against this illegal wall or these colonies. Come and share with us a little bit of our life and see how we live it. And so we have seen international skill in Palestine. You know about Rachel Corrie, you know about Jim Burton, you know about Tim Robin, the British young man who was killed also in Gaza. And people injured, journalists killed, ambulances destroyed, and each Palestinian blood with international blood mixed on that land. So I guess it brought more awareness also, and the media could not just continuously close their eyes with this aggression and violence and violation of every value and every international law and every UN resolution by the Israeli occupation government. So yes, there is an intensive work on popular resistance, popular nonviolent resistance, and there is a big encouragement from all the aspects of Palestinian population. And this doesn't mean that the Israelis don't confront this nonviolent by the worst violence still. And they continue repressing the Palestinians with their weapons, with tanks of sewage that they pump against demonstrators, or colored water, or sometimes acids, the worst tear gas and what they call rubber bullets, steel covered with rubber bullets, for live munitions. There was different actions, in fact. I guess what I remember, one of the Palestinian artists who was doing like a clown show at the checkpoint. And these Palestinians waiting in line for hours and hours and hours. And this guy, he's from Hebrew. And he started to sometimes mock even at the soldiers. and telling the stories, imitating in Hebrew some of the Israeli leaders, and also even the Israeli soldiers at a certain time looked at him and said, what are you doing? He made them laugh somehow. And so, yeah, I guess one of the things also that a minister, an American minister at Bethlehem checkpoint, because Palestinians pass only through this checkpoint who have permits to go to their work in East Jerusalem or in West Jerusalem or wherever. And they come at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, a line, as you have seen a little bit in the film, waiting in line to be able to pass the checkpoint when it opens at 6 or 7 in the morning. And so this minister comes a week during the year, and he goes in the morning to the checkpoint at 4 or 5 a.m. and start playing violin. And at one time, we have one of the movies, if you look at YouTube, Bethlehem checkpoint at 4 a.m., which is a film that we produced, it's 10 minutes. And he plays We Shall Overcome at that checkpoint. As a camp, we were very targeted because it's like the first point of confrontation on the south of Jerusalem, north of Bethlehem. All the incursions and invasions passed through Aida camp. It took me 6 years to get the permit to be able to go to see my wife in Jerusalem because we rented an apartment in Jerusalem since she was from Jerusalem. And they put like a security interdiction for me for 6 years. So again, they never said it's because you do that, but a lot of Palestinians have this interdiction until today. Many have never seen Jerusalem or have never seen the sea and never have enjoyed a normal life, just to wake up on one day and say, it's a good day, it's a sunny day to have a picnic on the seashore with my children and wife and so on. This becomes sometimes an impossible dream for a Palestinian family. Our children, in fact, face this challenge because the policies of the occupation are continuous. It does not stop. And so we, all the time, to keep this breath of hope and beauty, if we can say that, despite this ugliness of occupation, is something that we try hard to keep on working on. It's important that people remain hopeful and not go to despair. And for me, the most and biggest waste if these people think that the only way to change anything is to go and kill themselves or explode themselves. Because these people, if they have such spirit of sacrifice to go and give their life for what they believe in, they are better for Palestine and the world alive then. Because they can make miracles in staying alive. And it's a loss. It's all the time a loss when people think that the only way to change anything is to die.
Just to go back to the refugee camp, and to work and help his people and his community. And so many people, whenever they have the chance to get out, they just get out and they never come back. And that just says so much about his own character. So he's not doing this for the money. He's not doing this to enrich it. He doesn't look like he got rich off this gig, you know. He's just still working and helping his community, and that says a lot about his character. So if you want to support that type of individual, we have more people like that, you got to support the projects.
People are guilty if they remain silent, and if they see the injustice going on and they do not change it. In Islam we say you change the things with your hand, if you cannot with your tongue, if you cannot with your heart. We need action. People need to act and not react.
One of the things that we have come upon recently through one of our women, Doris Marito, who is a freelance journalist and who travels to Palestine and most especially Bethlehem often to help get the Palestinian voice out through the media. And she's the one who met Dr. Abed and wanted to, and so she was our connection to try to bring him here. We wanted to make a tour of the States, and we said yes. I would like for all of the women of faith, if you could please stand up, because we'd like to give you a round of applause for everything that you're doing in the community. Thank you very much. And we'd like to thank very much the masjid here for allowing us to have this here. They're providing the sweets and the coffee and tea.